Can you paint over a used canvas without priming it? Let's see. I got another free painting from the reuse center that we're going to paint over, half by priming it with gesso and the other half by painting straight over it using acrylics. So we can see the difference once the new painting is finished. It looks like a store-bought pre-primed canvas. I'm guessing the old painting is acrylic and some kind of marker. Let's test if the marker reactivates with water. It doesn't, so we can paint over it. There are multiple parts where the paint is thicker, and we're gonna want to even those out one way or another. This old sandpaper piece is falling apart, but we can just wipe off the dust afterwards. I missed some parts, so I'm going back in with an old knife this time, so you can see that works too. Now let's mark the middle, and I'm just gonna write on the back which side is which. Actually, I want them the other way. I'm going to weigh the same amount of gesso and white acrylic paint to make this somewhat comparable. But since I know it will be hard to cover the old painting completely, let's tint the white gesso a bluish grey and mix a similar color for the other side. The gesso is covering up the old painting pretty well in just one layer. I'm gonna let it dry and save the leftovers in the fridge for any touch-ups. I'm using an opaque white acrylic paint for the paint side, and I did not do this on purpose, but this side turned out a lighter grey. You can see there isn't as much coverage on the paint side. The black marker outlines are still visible. Some of it might be because of the lighter shade, but also the white paint just doesn't have the same coverage as gesso. The second layer was just for touching up the areas that were still showing through. The next difference I can see is that the gesso side is matte and the paint side is shiny. I sketched on the canvas with a watercolor pencil and it doesn't really show up on the paint side. My initial idea was to use one of the dominant colors in the old painting as the base color to make it easier to cover up, and then use that as a contrasting background color for the new acrylic painting. So since the old painting was mostly blue and green, I planned to make a mainly red and yellow landscape, sunset landscape. But I didn't exactly end up sticking to that plan, as you'll see from how the color scheme progressed. But I don't mind painting on a more neutral background color like grey. When I've done priming versus not priming videos before, I've usually given the finished paintings away as presents, but this time I'm going to keep the painting so I can update you if there's any longer term difference between the two sides. So while I'm finishing up the painting, can you cover up the old painting with paint instead of gesso? If you're okay with this ghost showing through, you can. No, really. I think I say the same thing in every video, but it depends on the old painting. This one was painted with probably acrylics on a pre-primed canvas, and it didn't seem to be varnished, so I don't see any problem with painting straight over this old painting with acrylics. It might just require more paint layers to cover up the old painting, as you saw, than if you were to use gesso and you want a clean slate with nothing showing through. But if it was varnished or the old painting was done in oils, it gets trickier. A varnished painting I would prime first, and oil painting is more complicated than that. Remember how I told you you'll want to remove the thick paint layers first? Well, this video shows you what happens if you don't, and what I had to do to save this painting.